You're listening to the Voices of Recovery podcast. This is a special episode featuring a recovering addict. Hi, my name is Sophie X. You're listening to the Voices of Recovery podcast on this special series with Jeff on incarceration and recovery. Thank you, Jeff, so much for being part of this episode, and thank you for doing our readings for the Just for Today and for the SPAD for July.
Thanks for having me, Sophie.
You had shared with me your experiences with being in the system, and I would love if you could tell our listeners who you are as a person, how incarceration is part of your story. Take it away.
I guess the easiest way to describe this is the ways and means to get more. At no particular time did I decide in my using that I wanted to be criminal. But when the money ran out, I did what I needed to do to get high. So that began to look like, petty things, stealing from my mom, taking from family members, not wanting to actually commit a crime that would incarcerate me. But as things progressed, risk got greater, and I found myself venturing into a world of burglary, right? In the neighborhood, breaking into people's houses, taking little trinkets, nothing major, just looking for little gold rings, things to pawn, cash money, stuff like that. That escalated into credit card theft and, financial transactions, fraudulently cashing checks and stuff like that. But what also progressed was the incarcerations. I didn't go through this free of getting caught. I would do something, I would get caught for it. And the incarcerations began small. There was a 6-month bid, then there was a year, and then there was, 18 months, and then it was 3 years, and then it was, and so, to round this up, it basically ended up with me doing 8 state bids, 1 federal, and all of them were directly related to my addiction.
So let's start from your addiction. Let's start to what brought you to lead this life of petty crimes that just progressed and progressed, because the thing that progresses is the disease of addiction. So what led you to start using?
Oh, goodness. So I played basketball when I was a kid, and I remember going to the park playing ball. And here in New York, we even shovel off the court in the winter to play ball. And I remember one day basketball looked like going to the park, clean the court off, play a little ball, and then eventually it got to where someone would bring this pinwheel joint. We would all stand to the side, smoke the joint, giggle and laugh, play a little ball. Then it got to where we would play a little ball, smoke a little weed. The progression, we'd smoke a little weed, play a little ball. Then eventually we just showed up to the park to smoke weed, and eventually we didn't even bring a ball, right? And so the progression began with me getting high. I think I smoked my first joint when I was like 7.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And how old are you today?
62.
62. A 62-year-old man who looks like a 35-year-old man.
Whatever. Yeah, so it began with the progression in weed, and then drinking a little bit, having a beer or a ale. Back then we drank, Triple X Ballantine and stuff like that, to graduating to drinking some liquor here and there.
When was the first time that you remember using?
So the first drug for me wasn't actual drugs, or the first action of my addiction wasn't the use of drugs. The first thing that I used was a sense of belonging. I only got high to fit in. Never did I desire to smoke weed or drink. But because I wanted to be a part of the crowd, I did whatever the crowd did. That led me into cocaine, heroin, pills, right? And so the deeper I got, at some point I crossed that invisible line where I didn't need to fit in, I just needed to get high. And that's when the abuse of my personal life began.
Well, first of all, I can relate very much to that, wanting to belong and just using drugs to feel a part of. And I definitely understand what you mean about going to the park to play some ball and then just eventually never bringing the ball and just going to the park to smoke. because that's also my story. I was also a baller. I coached, I played. Ball is life, still is. Now in my recovery, I've picked up a ball again and I play. I have a
Nice.
basketball in my trunk. And I've been fortunate to be able to play with people in the rooms too who also put down the ball and picked up the drugs.
Mhm.
And very often people use to escape something. So at the source of your wanting to belong, what would you say is the thing that drove you to feel like you were not a part of and that you had to use to be a part of?
I never felt that I fit into my family lifestyle. I was thoroughly convinced I was adopted, even though I looked the spitting image of my father. I just didn't believe that this was my life and that there was something going on. So I never felt a part of. I never felt that who I was and what I brought to the table was adequate. So I never thought that anyone would accept me for exactly who I am. So I had to fabricate that. And that even began with Little League Baseball. My mom bought all this equipment to play on this team. I didn't even make the team. Why? Because I didn't even know how to play baseball, right? I didn't know how to play baseball. I bought a left-handed glove because I could only catch with my left hand because I'm left-handed. So I bought a glove that a right-handed player would use, but I put the glove on my left hand. I would catch the ball, take the glove off, get the ball, and then throw it. I couldn't play the game. I was horrible. So I told my mother I made the team. I lied and told her I made the team, and I would go to the park every Sunday or Saturday or whatever it was, watch them play. Then after we would all play around, I would get dirtied in and slide on bases and come home and share their story. Oh, we won. Oh, we lost. But I didn't play, right? And I went through life doing that very same thing, fabricating who I was, pretending to be something that I was not, just to get people to accept me. And so that's what I ran from. I ran from who I actually was so that it made it easier to become something else.
That deep seated sense of being a foreigner, right? Not belonging. I think a lot of people can relate to that specifically within their family, but also for sure within their friend groups. And I think your story is the story of a lot of people where they said, oh, you want some of this? And they're like, sure, why not? If it's going to make us hang out again. And then eventually you're the one that's smoking everybody out, right? You're the one
Yeah,
that's
I was
supplying.
always the one who overdid it. They thought they should go home. The party was over, and I was like, all right, beer run. Like, who's going back to the store? Who's gonna go get more pot? Who's gonna go get more blow? Who's gonna I was never ready to end. I wanted to just keep going and going and going.
And you have 23
23
years.
years now.
Yeah, that seems so foreign to me because I only know you for a little while, and that definitely doesn't sound like you. So it looks like 23 years of recovery has done its job.
Hopefully. I'm definitely not the person who I was 23 years ago, but I've always believed that the program is perfect exactly the way it is, and that it will definitely give you an example of what you want and what you don't want. And so in this process, judgment free, I have learned what type of recovering addict I want to be and what type of recovering addict I don't want to be.
So we are recording this episode right now at a location that's called the Mental Health Association of Nassau County Incorporated.
That's correct.
And you are the building owner and you run this entire.
Yeah, I'm the CEO.
You're the CEO. That is amazing. So is this a nonprofit?
It is a nonprofit.
So how does a man go from being in prison multiple times, right, for decades, to being the CEO of a mental health association serving Nassau County? What kind of story is behind that? I think people are most excited to hear how you transformed your life and how recovery helped you get from behind bars to the person setting people free from this disease.
So I think that the rooms don't get enough credit. When I first started getting clean, they had these ABCs, ashtrays, brooms, and chairs. So when you got to a meeting, you helped set up. You put chairs out, you put the ashtrays on the side of the room that smoked, and you set up some chairs and helped make coffee. Um, They used to say that if you sat in a chair, you're a chairperson. What that meant was put your chair up. Don't leave it for someone else to do. And so I was part of that 2020 club. I came 20 minutes early. I stayed 20 minutes late. I helped set the meeting up. I helped break the meeting down. And most of it was predominantly because I was afraid to be alone. I was in early recovery. I was afraid to be walking the streets by myself because I always wanted to get high. Getting high was always an option for me, right? I know I hear people say that getting high is not an option. That's not true. It's always an option. It's just not what I'm choosing today, but it's still always an option. So, because getting high was always that option, I chose to do exactly what NA taught me to do: come early, stay late, and I incorporated those principles into work. So when I began to return back to the world of employment, when I became employable and was able to piss in a cup and all of this, and I come from a corporate world, I come from finance, which no longer wants me, right? Like I can't go back to being a broker and working for banks. And I said to the day, 23 years clean, I still can't even open an account at Chase
Why is that?
because I stole so much, because the frauds ran that deep. So none of the major banks will give me a checking account. Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo, none of the major ones. So I open at local banks. They'll give me an account. So that's who I have to bank with, right? The little banks, because major banks won't give me the opportunity. So when I first started getting clean and moved into this arena, I knew that I couldn't go back into corporate America and the finance world. People always said, "Oh, you have a great way of teaching people and a great way of doing this. You should become a counselor. You should do this. You should do that." And I said, "All right, maybe that's what I'll look at." So I thought about, pursuing a drug counseling. So I got a LCDC and became a licensed counselor,
LCDC means
licensed dependency counselor. Yeah,
licensed dependency
yeah.
counselor.
So I became a licensed counselor and started doing tech work in Houston, Texas, at the facility. In fact, at the facility that I went through, right?
Is that where you're from originally, Houston?
No, I'm from New York.
How did you end up in
I'm from South
Houston?
Bronx.
How did you end up in Houston, Texas?
I ended up in a lot of places running from Jeff,
I got you.
thinking that the next girl would be my reason for staying clean, the next job would be my reason for staying clean, the next town, the next house, the next car.
I can relate.
I always thought that it was about things and never thought it was me. So I ran from Jeff trying to pursue getting clean. And Philadelphia, California, Houston, Texas. So I moved around quite a bit. Atlanta, Georgia.
Was it in pursuit of getting clean or was it to avoid getting clean?
Well, no, it was in pursuit. Actually, it wasn't in pursuit of getting clean. It was to run away from addiction. So I thought that maybe because clean wasn't the concept. I thought where I was the problem. That if I got away from those dealers, those drugs, those girls, I wouldn't use anymore. And only for the disease to identify new drugs, new girls, new locations, right? Because it lives, it breathes, and it finds a way.
So instead of getting the next one, you just got the next location,
Yeah.
next job,
The
next
job,
girl,
yep,
the next
yep.
the next one.
That's
It's still
exactly
the next
right.
one. Still
Yeah,
the
it was
next
still
one.
the next one. It was still the next one. And so I ended up in Houston, Texas, ended up homeless in Houston, ended up getting into a treatment facility. When I got out, I pursued a job in that facility.
And how old were you at this time, do you think?
Oh, this was probably 22 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
right at 23 years ago. So I started working as a tech with 6 months clean.
Did you have any children at that time?
I did. I had 2 children
Mm-hmm.
that I did not know,
Right.
or knew them but had no dealings with them.
Because
No
you were
involvement.
because you were away for so long.
Because I was in and out of incarceration. Their mothers raised them. I didn't raise them. You know, there was some stints along the way, a moment of clarity, where I would get some money and send my daughter some money, talk to my son, maybe shoot him some money, but that was it. No physical. I'm not coming to see you. I can't send to. Yeah, nothing. Just trying to gift them and buy their parent. Buy my parenthood.
Right.
But it didn't mean anything. They wouldn't even call me dad. They called me Jeff. So I became a tech at this treatment facility. The counselor started giving me groups to do. You know the stages of change? Yeah, I know the stages of change. All right, you do the group today for stages of change. So I started working my way into doing some of the small counselor duties rather than just unlocking and med pores and stuff like that. And the program members started going, I want to go to Jeff's group. I like Jeff's group. Because predominantly I was one of the few that actually was an addict. The majority of them were textbook counselors. They didn't have no lived experience, right? And then the next thing I know, a job for a counselor opened up. I took it. A full role for a caseload came. I got it. And then my sister got ill, so I moved to Maryland, got a job at a treatment facility as a counselor. Overnight, I was chief counselor and director. Got involved with a childhood sweetheart here in New York. Decided to move back, and literally like blocks from where I grew up. So it was like full life coming full circle. By that time, I was probably close to 10 years clean, 8 years to be exact, because I was like 2010. Came here, started doing some other work, went to a meeting and met a guy who worked here. And he was like, "Oh, I'm getting ready to leave." And I was like, "Leaving?" So my mind said, "Oh, well, if you're getting ready to leave, that's a job.
That's a vacancy.
That's about to be open, but no one knows it's available yet. So what do you do? Where do you work?" He said, "Oh, well, I'm a peer at such and such." And I was like, "A peer? Okay, what's that?" And he explained to me, and I was like, "Oh, well, I could do that. That's kind of what I'm doing now." So I said, "Well, here, I want you to give your boss my resume." And he said, "All right." So he gave her the resume. She called me in. She spoke to me over the phone first. And then she said, "Well, I kind of want to have an interview with you, but not an interview." I said, "Okay, let's do it." So she called me in to meet her. I met her, two other directors, and the CEO at the time, right? So I must have impressed her over the phone because she asked the CEO to attend that meeting. So I met with all four of them. We had a conversation. They asked me to step out of the room. I stepped out of the room. I came back in, and they said, "We want to hire you. We're not sure how to do it yet, but we're going to figure it out, but we want you here at the agency." I said, "Okay, great." That was 2010. I wasn't here 90 days. They wanted to make me a supervisor. 6 months, they made me assistant director. 18 months, they made me a director. Then they gave me like 4 different programs. Then they made me chief program officer. Then the board came to me and said, "Will you run the agency?"
Amazing.
Right? Now, that story sounds pretty impactful, but what most people don't recognize is that was only because of Narcotics Anonymous.
Right.
That was because of my willingness to come 20 minutes early and stay 20 minutes late. That was because I was always willing to do the next right thing. That was because I didn't put restrictions on what needed to be done. I did it because it had to be done.
It's what they say, a life beyond your wildest dreams, right? Going from behind bars to what we're talking about now is insane.
Yeah.
That's insane.
And listen, and it went even further. Ended up chairing a regional advisory council for the governor of New York, sitting next to the governor, running a committee for a $290 million budget, right? Like literally talking to other senators in assembly and cracking jokes about, yeah, the only reason why I know is because I smoked a lot of crack. And they just would bust out laughing, thinking it was hilarious. Meanwhile, I'm dead serious.
Yeah.
Like, so people talk about anonymity, and I go, "Well, I don't really have none. The governor knows I smoke crack, so ain't no need for me to have any anonymity now, But I did it because it was very important that people, I didn't care who saw me using. I didn't care if you saw me 3 a.m, 4 a.m, running up and down those streets, homeless, looking for the next one. So I need you to see what recovery looks like. I need you to know that we do recover, right? If we hide this recovery, people won't believe it. They'll think that it's a myth and that once an addict, always an addict. That's not true. I needed you to see that we do recover.
I so agree with that. That's, I have promoted this podcast on LinkedIn with my full government name. I work for the U.S. government.
There you go.
I work for the U.S. government, and I posted it on there, and I said, "This is here for you. We do recover. We do recover." Not that I don't believe in anonymity. I respect people's need for it. But I also think that it's very important to show people that we recover, right? And to show people that you can be in high places and have that type of storied history.
And it douses the stigma.
And I think that that's important for people to hear too, because society will tell us once an addict, always an addict. Once you're a drug user, you're always a drug user. You'll always have those deficits and defects of character, and your moral compass will always be skewed.
Yeah.
And I don't think that that's the case.
I don't think it is at all.
I like to use the analogy of kryptonite, right? We're all superheroes. And even Superman has his kryptonite.
Yeah.
Things like that will change your moral compass. They'll change your true north, and they'll have
Right.
you seeking the next one.
Yeah.
But if you're in a program like the one that we're in, you're able to realign yourself with your primary purpose and your higher purpose. Right?
Most definitely. And I always tell people, and I share this because I still do a group, a men's empowerment group at the county jail. Been doing it for, I don't know, 13, 14 years. I've been going to the county jail every Thursday. And one of the things I tell the guys at the jail is about kryptonite and Superman, and that the only reason why Superman is because he knows he's allergic to kryptonite. As long as he understands what he has to stay away from, then his powers are limitless. And that's the same thing with the addict. Knowing your weakness is your greatest strength.
And so we know we have to stay away from the disease of addiction because we're addicts.
Because we're addicts.
And acknowledging the fact that we are addicts and have those types of tendencies to use and abuse and to seek and to use people, places, and things.
Yep.
As long as we acknowledge that, we know what the problem is, and we can lean on our higher power and the program to have a solution, make that decision to turn our will and our lives over and to change our
Most
true
definitely.
north.
So I want to share this with you because I feel like this is relevant to this incarceration and addiction. So my last stint was a 15-year sentence. I had requested that they were going to give me a 7-do-15. Now, what that meant was that I would do 7 years, and then after 7 years, I would be released and I would complete the 15 years on probation. If I got paroled, it would be within the 7. So let's say I did 4 years, got parole, would have did 3 on parole, then would have had 8 on probation. You get it?
Of course, yeah.
All right. So I told the judge I didn't want a split sentence. Give me 15 years.
So that you could be free afterwards.
I've never completed parole or probation successfully. That was a setup for this addict. I said, just give me all the time, let me do it all, and then when I get out, I'm free to go and do whatever I need to do. And the judge said, are you serious? I said, yes, please.
So you wanted to
Just
serve that
give
time.
me 15 years.
You wanted to serve the time.
I wanted to serve the time. So he said, all right, I'll sentence you to straight 15. I said, thank you. So I went to prison. Now,
I've never heard of a person asking for more jail time to get off of parole and probation.
because I knew I wasn't, it was a setup for me.
Right.
I knew I wouldn't complete it.
Right.
Right. And it only meant that I was also stuck in the state.
In the system.
Right. I would get out, but I can't, y'all still determine what I do and where I can go.
Can't even go on vacation.
I didn't want to do that.
Right.
I wanted to be free for once. Yep. And let's not forget that there was years prior to that I wasn't. I've been in and out of the system all that time. So I decided that I was done and I wanted to be free. So in the middle of this sentence, I'm 7 years, like 8 months into the sentence, and the counselor comes to get me and he said, we need to know your address. And I was like, what do you need to know my address for? Get out of here. I'm maxing out. It don't matter. It's none of your business. He said, no, I don't think you understand. We need an address for you. And I said, I don't think you understand. It ain't none of your business. I started getting really belligerent with him. Like, ain't none of your effing business. Blah, 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 blah. You need to get up out my face because I'm maxing out. And he took the piece of paper, spun it around and pushed it into my face and was like, I don't think you understand. And he slid the paperwork to me, and the paperwork said, after careful investigation and deliberation, we have decided to parole you and to grant you parole. And I said, 3677 Tarragon Drive. I've got to. So I gave him an address real quick because at that point I had decided I want out. Let me out.
This is how many years in?
Almost 8.
Okay. So you're halfway.
Seven years. I was halfway to the cake. Halfway to the cake. So it was 7 years. It was 7 years, 8 months in a few days. But anyway, so this is the thing. In all of that time, that complete bid, I had not had one cup of hooch, right? Wine that they make in prison. I didn't smoke one joint. I had done no drugs. I had taken no one else's psych meds to help me sleep. I had done nothing against the grid of recovery.
So you were clean behind bars.
I was clean behind bars without knowing NA or AA or any program, just the willingness to want to not use.
And so you hadn't heard about it.
And had no idea it even existed. But knew I didn't want to be high and with drugs. I knew I needed to get clean. The moment that man told me I was being released, the desire to use kicked up.
Mm.
The moment he told me I was being released, the desire to use kicked up.
After 8 years of not
After
using.
8 years of not using, all I could think about was saving every dollar I had on my books. I'd stop making commissary. I was going to save every penny so that when I got out, I was going to get me a boulder for my shoulder. I was going to go smoke some crack. And I knew it.
So say more about that decision.
So the decision was clear that I knew when I came home, I wanted to get high. And so when I got home, I got high. I got high. And
After 8 years of
after
abstinence.
8 years of abstinence, I went home and I got high. Now, in all of that, I ended up deciding that I wanted to change how things were going in my life, and that I knew I was going to need to go to treatment, et cetera, and get some things because I don't know how I dropped this ball. And so I got involved in treatment, and it was at that point that I learned about NA. It was at that point that I realized, okay, this is more, because I didn't believe in a disease concept. I didn't believe that I thought this was sheer willpower, that I just needed to make up my mind and not use anymore and I should be fine. So I didn't believe in a disease concept. And to show you, so when I got out and I started like doing this thing and I made a meeting and I started going to groups and stuff, I got a year clean. And I had decided that I'm going to show y'all that this thing is not what y'all think it is. I didn't celebrate my year in the rooms. I deliberately planned my year in the street. I'm going to smoke some crack. I'm going to drink. I'm going to party. Now, a year clean, making a great living, doing some humongous things in my life within that year, right? In 14 days.
14 days of using.
In 14 days of using, ruined the relationship that I was in, ran through everything within my savings account, and caught another charge. 14 days. 14 days is all it took for me to go right back to square one. And what I did in them 14 days was insane. And so after that, I decided that I needed to go back to treatment. I said, I need to do this again.
A lot of people in relapse have that story where they're like, oh, I have this time and now I know how to control the disease and the disease is not going to get the best of me.
That's what I thought. I could just use and stop.
People talk themselves into a relapse all the time and say, you know what? I can go out and drink. I have 12 years clean, 10 years clean. I have, 5 months clean. I can go back and just, pick one up. And it's not true.
It did not happen that way. That is not my reality. So I got back in the rooms, right? And
how did you hear about the rooms?
H&I.
And H&I is hospitals and institutions.
Hospitals and institutions, yep. H&I came, they didn't come into the jail. H&I came into the treatment center that I was in. In fact, my first sponsor was one of the speakers.
And coincidentally, just this past weekend, the Nassau area hosted our summer H&I Learning Day. And you were so gracious to offer the space to us. And it was perfect. It was perfect. There's even people from the community that came in and were able to eat. And, they saw the doors open and they said, what's going on? We were grilling. So it's wonderful that you're able to give back to H&I in that way.
Yeah, because it started with H&I for me. And if it wasn't for H&I coming into the institution, letting me know what to expect at a meeting, what to look for, what the language was, and how to talk, how to carry myself, then I probably would have gotten out of treatment and just tried to white knuckle it on my own.
Mm-hmm.
I would have never thought to go to a meeting.
Yeah,
right?
The message of H&I is that you don't have to do it alone. Right? There's a fellowship of people, men and women suffering from the disease of addiction who help each other stay clean.
That is correct. And from the 3-quarter house, I used to walk every day to my meeting.
What is a 3-quarter house for everybody?
So it's kind of, it's a house where you live on the premises. They have curfew rules and things like that. You pay a rent, but you kind of can go and come as you please during the day.
Is that like a recovery house?
It was a recovery house because it was on the premises of the treatment center.
Understood.
On this side was the treatment center, and on this side was the 3-quarter house. But it was a way for you to graduate into the community, so to speak.
Paying rent, contributing.
Yep, contributing, yep. So I did that because if I didn't, I would have had nowhere else to go. I wouldn't have known what to do, and I just needed an opportunity to like figure this space out for myself. And that's what I did. So I started going to the 3/4 house until the money started getting good enough for me to get an apartment. And once I had gotten clean enough to feel confident that I was able to stand on my own 2 feet and I knew to make meetings and I knew what to do and what to stay away from, then I was like, all right, I'm ready to move. And I haven't looked back.
So, talk about the disease present day and how do you ever get those urges or the thought to like, oh, maybe I can just have a beer at a Super Bowl party or,
Yeah.
XYZ.
So in my arena, not every CEO or person that runs a recovery center is clean or even an addict. So there's a lot of CEOs that drink and party. Some of the arenas I go to now that weed is legal, a lot of them smoke weed. And so I'll go off to these conferences and these events, and they'll be at the bar and drinking, or they'll have these cocktail hours. And I'll go to the bar and be like, yeah, let me get, a juice. I'll order whatever drinks I drink that are alcohol free. And I mix and mingle. And what I've learned is that my not drinking makes other people look at their drinking.
Mm.
Now their drinking don't make me question mine. I know what I can and cannot do. Drinking is not an option I'm choosing today. But I noticed that they will cut back on the number of drinks they have when they're around me. I make them think about their drinking. And I don't mean to, I'm just being me. And a lot of people be like, and you don't drink nothing or you don't do nothing. And they find it hard to fathom. I get that. I used to find it hard to believe that people would drink half a Heineken and leave the rest there. Like, you're not going to finish that? Like, I don't understand how you drink half a beer. How does that even work? So I get that we exist and live in two different worlds, and I'm okay with that. I'm perfectly fine with being who I need to be for Jeff, as long as you're perfectly fine with being who you need to be for you.
And you're wearing a lanyard that says number one dad. Now, you had told me that
Yeah.
you have a son and a daughter who you were not able to raise coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me about your life today.
So today I have a stepdaughter who just graduated high school and a son he'll be 6 in November, who just graduated kindergarten. So I got one leaving, going off to college, and I got one about to start the first grade.
And you have grandchildren.
And I have grandchildren.
And so tell me what it's been like in recovery to show up for your son, your daughter, and your
Oh
stepdaughter.
yeah. So they didn't even call me dad when I got clean. They was calling me Jeff. And over the years, I've done what I needed to do as a father. And I had a knockdown drag out with my daughter. I told her, listen, I don't owe you anything. I did the best I could with what I had. That's who your father was at the time. And I get that you feel like I owe you something, but I don't. I don't owe you anything. What I do owe is myself an opportunity to live the best life that I can live. And if you want to be a part of that, then you should come hang out with me sometime. I would love to be your father. I would love to show you what life looks like for me today and share who I am with you today. And so she did. Ended up moving in with me and everything. Loves me to death now. Calls me dad, everything, right? So she gets it. She understands that. My son, same thing. They never miss an opportunity to share their lives and their successes and failures with me. And I do the best I can as a father to be there and available for them. But I don't do it because I owe them. I do it because that's who I am.
So tell me what it's been like to live the moments that you missed out on because you were incarcerated with your youngest.
Yeah, so, and even with my stepdaughter, because I've been in her life a little over 8 years. And so seeing her go from elementary into junior high and into high and having him, to be a part of his life, it's been a blessing to get that experience and to share that and to be there for them. Not only that, but also to instill that security and for them to look at me with honor and, do you want me to come? Of course I want you to come. You know what I mean? And so those things have been a game changer for me and actually are probably reference points of success for me.
It's a true second chance
Definitely.
at life.
It's the restoration of our second step.
Right. The restoration of sanity.
It's the restoration of our second step. So
And with that, I just want to thank you so much for speaking about what it's been like to transform your life and how you used these rooms to do that, and how you've dedicated your life to helping other people do that, because there are people in MHANC right now who are, actively using, and you've dedicated
Yep,
your life to
right down
helping
the hall.
people. Yeah.
They're right down the hall.
Yeah. And so being in this space is wonderful because it truly is a full circle.
It is, and I'm appreciative of it. And my gratitude to NA and the people in my life is unmatched. There's nothing I can do or say for NA or the people in it to show how grateful I am. So my gratitude speaks as a way for me to share it forward. That's how I say thank you, by giving it to others.
I thank you so much for giving this story to other people so other people can hear how you can go from being a ward of the state to being, to sitting on, state panels and making decisions for the state and receiving state funding to do the amazing programs that you're doing and running what you're doing. This entire operation is amazing. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's been an honor.
I appreciate you. Thank you, Jeff. The Voices of Recovery podcast is an independent production of the Works of Wisdom. We welcome your questions and donations via PayPal at voicesofrecoverypod@gmail.com. This podcast is an independent production and is not affiliated with, associated with, authorized by, endorsed by, or in any way officially connected with Narcotics Anonymous or any of its subsidiaries or affiliates. While NA literature may be read during episodes for the purpose of supporting recovery, such use does not constitute an official endorsement or representation by Narcotics Anonymous. In accordance with NA tradition, the NA name is not to be used to endorse or be affiliated with any outside enterprise, and no such endorsement or affiliation is implied. Music is by Sage. Thanks for listening to the Voices of Recovery podcast.